What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. With the 2021 edition of Extreme Rules close at hand, the universe is wondering just who will emerge victorious in the show's 6 matches, which include 5 huge title matches. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the winners and losers of this year's Extreme Rules pay-per-view. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now we start off with the SmackDown Women's Championship match as champion Becky Lynch takes on Bianca Belair. The WWE Universe is still seething over the WWE's dizzy decision to have Becky Lynch make an impromptu challenge for Belair's SmackDown Women's Championship at SummerSlam, then just squash her in seconds. Now the fans will get to see the two compete in what will hopefully be an actual match as opposed to a 7-second sideshow. Given Becky's absence from the ring, fans are eager to see what Lynch can do, especially against one of the WWE's most promising prospects. They would do well to give these two performers some time to work, especially since there are only 6 matches scheduled for Extreme Rules so far. Look for this match to see Belair look strong against Lynch, but for the SmackDown Women's Champion to bend or break the rules to retain the title. WWE needs to be careful with its booking of Lynch so she doesn't resemble a female version of Roman Reigns, a dominant champion who the fans know isn't losing the title anytime soon. Our final prediction, Becky Lynch retains the SmackDown Women's title. And as we discussed in our Extreme Rules Rumors video, fans should expect to see the return of Sasha Banks if she returns to claim the spot as SmackDown's top women's star. This could happen in a number of ways, including Banks interfering in the match and either inadvertently or intentionally costing Belair the win, or more likely, Banks attacking one or both competitors after the match. Next up is a triple threat match for the United States Championship as champion Damian takes on Jeff Hardy and Sheamus. The WWE is beginning to drag out the Sheamus vs Damian Priest program a bit too much, which is likely why fans are seeing Jeff Hardy added to the match. As DDP used to say, that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing, as Jeff is still a top performer and works well with both Sheamus and Priest. It's good to see that Priest is getting a push, but unless the WWE wants to shift Priest from a program with Sheamus to one with Hardy, it's time for him to find fresh competition. There are plenty of wrestlers on Raw who could challenge Priest, but there are also more that should be coming in following the WWE draft. Look for a phenomenal performance from all 3 superstars as Damian Priest retains and prepares for a new challenger. Could it be someone like Ricochet or perhaps even a heel Keith Lee? Whatever the case, our prediction sees Damian Priest retaining the US Championship. With any luck, WWE will make a last minute call and book this as a ladder match, as all 3 men are perfect for it. I know it's a triple threat, so it is a kind of Extreme Rules concept match, kind of. What other kind of interesting stipulation would you like to see? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, the Raw Women's Championship match as champion Charlotte Flair is taking on Alexa Bliss. Now this is arguably the most bizarre bout fans have seen for the Raw Women's Championship, as the technically based champion faces a wrestler whose act revolves largely around spectacle rather than a wrestling performance. That's not to say that Bliss can't wrestle, it's just a question of how much the WWE will have her wrestle and how much they'll have her work her School of Dark Arts Demon Doll act. In some respects, this match exemplifies the Raw Women's division in 2021, bizarrely booked with no rhyme or reason as fans witness one short-term champion after another holding the belt in what seems like the WWE's attempt to keep it warm for Becky Lynch or just notching up the numbers for Charlotte Flair. The WWE needs to move on now and decide on a definite direction for the Women's Championship, especially since it's likely the Red Brand will see a shake-up after the draft. If the WWE wants to get Bliss over as something more than a novelty act, it needs to show that Bliss can wrestle no matter what magic tricks they decide to use to hype a show. Otherwise, wrestlers like Charlotte Flair are going to look foolish as they're frustrated by Bliss's hocus pocus act, and fans wonder if they're watching a live action of WWE's Scooby-Doo crossover. Finding a happy medium with Bliss could prove too much for Raw's creatively challenged writers, or Vince McMahon, but the company can't afford to slack off with a world title match. This is going to be a difficult match for the WWE to pull off due to the clash of styles, but if Bliss can utilize more wrestling and less witchcraft, it could establish her as something more than a poor woman's version of the Fiend. But look for Bliss to surprise Flair with some wrestling moves and some arcane action, winning the championship as Alexa Bliss wins the Raw Women's Championship. Now while we believe Bliss is going to capture another championship, it's unknown whether the WWE is having Flair drop the belt again so she can rack up another title soon in order to get closer to beating her father's record, or if the WWE has a reign planned for Bliss. Next up, it's a SmackDown Tag Team Championship match as the champions the Usos take on the Street Profits. The Usos have been on fire lately as they've been healthy and at the top of their game. Their series with the Mysterios was fantastic, and a series with the Street Profits could be even better, particularly thanks to the Profits' charisma and promo skills. While they haven't spent too much time building this rivalry, they need to consider making this a top tag team program on SmackDown, as these two teams could battle all the way through the rest of the year without fans getting bored. The biggest obstacle to such series is that the WWE seems intent on pushing every member of the Bloodline hard, which means a tag team title switch is unlikely to happen. Expect a phenomenal match as Jay and Jimmy use a trick or two to retain despite an energetic effort from the Profits. Like the triple threat match, this could benefit from being a ladder match, but if Sheamus, Hardy and Priest is sanctioned as a ladder match, this might be booked as a tables match. A steel cage is also possible too, although choosing that seems more like something you get from the Raw Roulette rather than from any intelligent storytelling. But our final prediction, the Usos retain the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Next up, Liv Morgan vs Carmella. And we're glad to see the WWE push female stars besides its champions, and this match should be a good test to gauge whether Liv is ready for a singles push. She seemed ready for a solo run in 2020 until the WWE decided to reform the Riot Squad briefly before canning Ruby Riot this year. At only 27, Morgan should have some years left to improve and grow, but at what point does she get lost in the shuffle as more stars are called up? Morgan needs to make the most of this opportunity and see if she can connect with the right people backstage and get a push. While Morgan needs a strong performance and a win, Carmella is another case. She's bulletproof when it comes to losses, so dropping a match to Liv won't hurt her role on SmackDown as a perennial loser who always manages to find a way into a pay-per-view and or championship match. And even if Morgan puts on a great match, the WWE's inconsistent booking of its undercard holds no promise for Liv other than the possibility of joining Ruby Soho in AEW if the WWE gets bored with her. Our final prediction, Liv Morgan wins the match. And now it's time for the main event, as it's an Extreme Rules match for the Universal Championship as champion Roman Reigns takes on the Demon Finn Bálor. Now, all in all, Extreme Rules seems like a filler pay-per-view to keep things in place until the WWE runs its Crown Jewel event and Survivor Series. Here, Roman Reigns is making yet another routine title defense, and despite Finn Bálor adopting his demon persona for the match, no one expects to see Reigns lose, particularly with the Tribal Chief defending the belt against Lesnar at October's Saudi Arabia Super Show. They've shown that Reigns can make opponents look good in defeat, but it's also shown that it can get lazy with putting Reigns over. Balor's demon character isn't undefeated in WWE, but he's only lost once, which means the WWE shouldn't have Reigns squash him. Whether or not they can resist the urge to do so in order to build up Reigns vs Lesnar is the big question for this match. Reigns should win, but how his win is almost as important as maintaining Reigns' win streak. They have an ideal opportunity for a memorable main event as the Demon rarely shows up, but the match itself seems like more of an afterthought. The addition of the Extreme Rules stipulation could help, but there's no sense that the WWE has put any planning into the match or the stipulation. Our final prediction, Roman Reigns retains the Universal Championship. But that's not all. Expect another interruption in the show as Brock Lesnar crashes the party, making an impression on Reigns to help hype their match at Crown Jewel. If Lesnar does crash the show, the WWE should make it a Pier 6 brawl. We've discussed how AEW and the WWE's business models are different for pay-per-views, but that doesn't mean the WWE should make its events a slightly amped up edition of Raw or SmackDown. But there you have it guys, our picks for the winners and losers of Extreme Rules. What are your guys' picks? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.